This week in space is full of opportunities, discoveries, and ongoing work that showcases the ever-expanding frontiers of human and robotic exploration. From NASA's discovery of potential water reservoirs on Mars to SpaceX's latest mission, the future of space travel and research looks brighter than ever. The discovery of water on Mars is an ongoing topic in the scientific world, with new studies often claiming to find new evidence. This week, there was another heated discussion about the possibility that NASA has discovered oceans under the surface of Mars. However, the reality is much simpler. The current study, led by geophysicist Vashon Wright, examines how water is trapped in the Martian crust. While the headlines suggest they look right, the truth is that these observations are based on seismic data collected by NASA's InSight lander and sophisticated models that show the location of the water, as we know. Mars has seas, rivers, and lakes. These bodies of water disappear over time due to atmospheric evaporation and subsequent atmospheric evaporation by the solar wind. However, some theories suggest that some of this water has entered the Martian crust, where pressure and temperature have kept it in liquid form. Seismic data from InSight confirms that the upper 300 meters of the Earth's crust has dried up, and water has opened up to a greater depth, up to 8 kilometers. Rocks at this depth are fractured and waterlogged, meaning that large amounts of water could be stored in the crust of the Earth, possibly enough to cover the entire world in oceans 1 or 2 kilometers across. Deep. Although this evidence is not correct, the study is based on models that determine the properties of the Martian crust at these depths, and all models have room for error. The findings, while promising, highlight the need for more research and exploration to fully understand what lies beneath the surface of Mars. In a major development, SpaceX announced a new manned space mission called Fra-2, where the Crew Dragon will launch a mission in polar orbit around the country. The mission was groundbreaking, as it was the first time a spacecraft had been sent into polar orbit, a feat previously only accomplished by unmanned missions. This mission takes its name from the Norwegian ship Fram, which played an important role in polar exploration in the early 20th century. The Fram-2 project will push the boundaries of human spaceflight. By achieving an orbital angle of 90 degrees, it flies over both poles. This is a significant increase from the previous record for crew action, which was about 65 degrees. This mission is led by billionaire Chun Wong, who financed the entire project. He will be accompanied by Commander Yanuka Mikkelsen, pilot Eric Phillips, and mission specialist Rabia Raga. The four have a keen interest in exploration and have visited the polar and Antarctic regions on Earth and seen these regions from space. The mission spacecraft, Crew Dragon Endurance, is equipped with a special observatory that allows the crew to see the polar regions. Flying into polar orbit from the east coast of the United States presents unique challenges, including the need to perform a doggy maneuver to avoid flying over habitable zones. This is the first time such a mission has been undertaken with a spacecraft and requires careful planning and execution. This mission also poses the challenge of ensuring crew safety in a new, untested orbit. The small launch pad for the Crew Dragon, located in the Atlantic Ocean, needs to be fixed, and the performance of the Falcon 9 rocket will be affected by dog activity. These factors make the Fram-2 project a pioneering effort in human space exploration. Boeing's Starliner spacecraft has gone through many stages on its journey to become NASA's reliable transport vehicle. This week, NASA officials held a press conference to provide updates on the Starliner crewed flight test, but no new launch date was announced, adding to the program's uncertainty. The biggest problem is the Starliner's propulsion system, especially the thrusters. NASA's ongoing research into these questions has drawn input from a variety of experts across the agency, including experts who operate navigation systems on spacecraft millions of kilometers away. This installation was essential to solving the problem, but the lack of proper access to the equipment made the process slow and challenging. NASA must decide by the end of the month if the Starliner will be ready to bring astronauts Butch and Sunny home, or if they will have to rely on SpaceX's Dragon crews. Both options carry risks, and NASA managers carefully consider the potential risks of each scenario. In the meantime, we will have to wait and see what will be decided in the coming weeks. NASA's Viper lunar rover, originally planned for a mission to the Moon, has now been canceled due to budget constraints and delays. However, the rover is almost complete, and NASA has requested information from companies or institutions interested in carrying out the project. The Viper rover was designed to explore the Moon's south pole, searching for water ice and other resources to support future missions. When the rover is available, many groups want to use it for their missions. One of the companies, Intuitive Machines, has expressed interest in buying the rover. In the coming weeks, NASA will review the response to the request for information and decide whether to give the rover to another agency. This mission could give the Viper rover a second chance at a mission, albeit one that differs from its original mission. United Launch Alliance, ULA, is preparing for the second flight of its Vulcan rocket, a major step toward qualifying the rocket for national security costs. The Vulcan rocket is an important part of ULA's future, replacing the aging Atlas V and Delta IV rockets. This week, ULA began assembling the equipment for the upcoming flight, and the Vulcan booster will be installed on its mobile launcher. The missile will be equipped with GM-63XL rocket motors, which were also installed this week. The second Vulcan flight will be the final certification mission, and if all goes well, a national security mission will be scheduled for late October in China. Preparations are underway for the first flight of the Chang'e 12 rocket. Chang'e 12, similar in size and power to SpaceX's Falcon 9, is the latest addition to China's rocket family. 4 YF-100K engines in the first stage and 2 YF-115 engines in the second stage. This week, the rocket was sent to the launch pad for final testing and preparation. The Chang'e 12 is expected to replace the older missiles in China's arsenal that use toxic hypergolic missiles. The upcoming launch is the first of a new set of launches at the Wenchang Commercial Space Launch Site, a key step in China's plans to expand its space capabilities. SpaceX is also gearing up for the upcoming Polaris Dawn mission, which is scheduled to launch in just 10 days. The mission, part of the Polaris program, will push the boundaries of human spaceflight, and the 4 crew members will embark on a journey that will include the first spacewalk. This week, SpaceX launched the campaign and entered the second phase with Crew Dragon Resilience. This mission is the first in a series of missions planned under the Polaris program, which aims to explore new frontiers in human spaceflight and beyond. The past week has been a busy one for space shuttles, with many launches around the world. SpaceX successfully launched 21 Starlink satellites, including 13 direct-to-cell satellites and 8 small V2 satellites from Florida. The company also launched 2 broadband satellites for Space Norway from California, another sign of establishing a connection with the Arctic regions. The lab launched the Acadia 3 satellite rocket for Capella Space from its private spaceport in New Zealand. This is the 5th Electron launch for Capella Space, with more launches planned in the future. In Kazakhstan, a Soyuz rocket launched the Progress MS-28 cargo spacecraft to the International Space Station, bringing supplies and propellants. The spacecraft will dock with the station later this week and will remain there for 6 months. Finally, SpaceX launched the 3rd and 4th Worldview Legion satellites for Maxar Technologies in Florida, continuing the deployment of this Earth observation constellation. The coming weeks promise to be full of important events and important decisions, launches, and missions on the site. NASA's Starliner launch, the potential transfer of the Viper rover, and the upcoming Polaris Dawn project are some of the exciting developments to watch. Space exploration continues to advance rapidly, thanks to new technologies, exciting activities, and the human desire to explore the unknown. Whether it's finding water on Mars, pushing the boundaries of human spaceflight, or preparing new rockets for flight, each step forward brings us closer to the future. Space is not only the final frontier, but an infinite universe.